Good morning. How are you? Hope you had a good weekend. It's Moji. Um, while you guys are coming in, let me just go to my page, private page, and make this public. So, Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi o, Bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi. Ìbànújẹ́ o, jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé wa. Wá múnú wa dùn, Bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ wa má jẹ́ kó pa wá lẹ́kún. Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ wa o, Bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ wa. Ìbànújẹ́ o, jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé wa. Wá múnú wa dùn, Bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ wa má jẹ́ kó pa wá lẹ́kún. Amen. Anyways, this is Moji Wilson. It's good to see you guys. Today is Monday. I have no idea what the dates are. I think I've pretty much been indoors since February 13, so they all kind of sing the same to me. But the song I just sang says, "Open the doors to my happiness, oh God, open the doors to my happiness. May what brings me happiness not bring me tears." I'll drink to that. Tea, of course. No more coffee for me. Hope you guys had a great weekend. It's been a crazy, crazy week. Couple of weeks, we had the funeral. Well, we had the virtual funeral for Reverend Vicky yesterday. And since Reverend Vicky, our dear friend, passed away, I've been in deep thoughts. I've had a lot of questions. And today's show, I don't have any answers. I'm actually asking questions. And I'm bringing the questions to you guys because I trust you. And I believe that, we're all here to learn something. And today's questions are going to seem kind of bizarre, but I have to ask those questions because in order for us to grow, we have to be very honest and truthful. And the more truthful people become, the less like they become, and the less, the more truthful you become, the more introspective you become, because you start to look at things through a lot of very different lenses. So today's show is called, I believe it's called selflessness. Selflessness is a topic. Being selfish we all know is a very bad word. But before we start, give me a second. I'll be right back. Hi, it's Moji Wilson again, and the show is Authentic Conversations with Moji. For those of you guys that have never been here, welcome. It's good to see you. For those of you guys that are usually here, just say hello so I know that you're there. And hi, Angela. Hi, Ola Dioye. Oh my God, I sang this song and Ola is on today. See, magic happens when you show up. But anyway, so today's topic is being self-focused. I'm going to go and pull up the meaning of selfish on here on my iPad real quick, because the older I get and the more aware and the more self-centered, and I hate the word woke because none of us are really woke, but we're all trying to become self-aware, and awareness and and mindfulness is what I practice, because that's what I brought from my Buddhist world into this spiritual realm that I feel I've been elevated to in the past few years. So for clarity purposes, this is not one of those woosah and hocus pocus or miraculous things. And no, it's about self-searching. That's the journey I've been on for the past few years. And a lot of us have been on that journey as well together, sharing ideas. So authentic conversations is about having authentic conversations, truthful conversations. And when you throw in mindfulness into it, it kind of changes the flavor a little bit, because now you're being very careful about what you say and how you say it. So one of the reasons why I brought this conversation up, like I said, is that we had the virtual, I attended a virtual funeral ceremony or celebration of life yesterday that really opened my eyes from what I saw happen, really opened my eyes, and it affirmed a lot of the things that I've been saying to myself and to others for the past few years, which is self-awareness, self-awareness, self-actualization, being selfful as opposed to being selfless. Because look, here's the thing. For those of us that are like freedom fighters, I would like to say, people that fight for human rights, social justice, and things like that, it takes a lot away from you mentally, physically, financially, and all that. And what I'm finding is that a lot of times people are not replenishing, they're not refilling or refueling, right? And I started to ask myself why about 3-4 years ago when I turned the corner on this topic, which is basically selfishness. People say selfish. You know, if you consider yourself, if you want to be self-full, you're considered to be selfish. So I started to investigate. You know me, I always go and I do research and I try and ask questions. What's the difference between selfish and selfful? Self-focused and self-full. What is the difference between being selfish and self-full? Of course, self-full is not in the dictionary yet. It's not a word that's very common. We're so used to people being selfless. We're being told to be selfless. Here's my problem with the selflessness thing. I did that for many years. At the end of the night, I felt spent. I felt empty. I felt less. I felt like I was invaluable. I felt, and you know, even though I was jumping up and helping everybody and doing everything for everybody, I was taking everything from out of me, emotionally, financially, everything you could think about. And then when I turned that corner, I think it was 2012, when I became a member of the Pink Club and I thought I was going to die, you know, all of a sudden nothing made sense. I mean, absolutely nothing, because I started to ask myself, you know, I have been good to people. I have been very kind to people. I have led so many battles and walks for social justice. I've been doing this thing since 2000 and some, maybe 1998. So why am I not feeling self-full? Why am I not happy? Why am I not content? And then it dawned on me one day, I don't remember if it was after therapy or something like that, that what I was doing was doing for people because it made me feel important, doing for people because it made me feel whole, doing for people because it made me feel accepted. So I wasn't doing it because I really wanted to do it. I was doing it because I had a hole to fill. We've been taught in church, for instance, or a lot of the religions tells you your whole purpose in life is to serve. Really? I'm no longer at that point. So I bring the question to the table. Are we allowed to be self-full? Is it considered selfish to be self-full? And I'll tell you, selfish in the dictionary says a person, it's an adjective, selfish. Adjective of a person, action or motive, lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. The question came up yesterday because Reverend Vicky, her service yesterday was beautiful, kind of. But for me, because I'm an empath, you know, when I met her, I could see a lot of pain in her eyes, but because I wasn't that brave, I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't ask her things. We talked a lot. I mean, for somebody I only knew for a year, I felt like she was one of the closest people I've ever been to around in 55 years. So now I started to ask myself, is it okay to be selfish? Because look, when you're a pastor or a minister or a reverend, you're considered a shepherd, and they tell you, oh, you have to give everything to everybody. Your phone call has to be, your phone has to be on 24/7. Like when I first started African LGBTQ, my cell phone was on 24/7. I couldn't sleep. I didn't get 3 hours of sleep at night. I was miserable most of the time because during the day I was tired. I was getting calls from Nigeria. People will call me and tell me their problems about their wives. They'll call me and tell me their problems about their girlfriends. Straight, gay, crooked. Everybody was calling me with their problems. Wait, but nobody stopped to ask me, how are you? Are you okay? Until I met my wife, there was nobody saying, Moji, slow down. You know, this thing you're doing is not sustainable. Because if we look at businesses, right? If we look at businesses take account of what their life or their business model is. And every 6 months or every year, they go back to the business plan. Are we on track? Where are we going forward? They keep moving the bar. You know, they keep moving the goalpost. But we as humans believe that we can just keep chugging, forgetting that if you're a human being, your body is wearing out along the years as you age. So you have to be proactive, because to be able to sustain what you're doing, you need teams to make it work so that you can have time to refuel emotionally, mentally, financially, and spiritually. Because you can't keep giving. It's like you cannot keep taking money from a bank and think it will continue to replenish itself. It doesn't work that way. And then you have to understand, look, I always wanted to go to Nigeria and build schools, right? And then Nigeria came up with this stupid law that if you're a married gay person, they'll put you in jail for 14 years. That kind of halted the whole thing, right? So instead of building a school, I had to rethink what I wanted to do. So instead of building a school, we created something where we fund education, right? Does that make sense? I revisited my business plan because that original plan was no longer sustainable, especially if they're going to lock me up for 14 years. What value would I bring to the table if I'm locked up for 14 years in Nigeria? As opposed to me being free in America, I could help more people than being locked up in jail in Nigeria because I'm married and I'm out, right? A lot of times when we're thinking about selfishness, we think, oh God, I cannot think about me. I have to think about everybody else. Problem is like, for me, I have to ask the question, if I don't think about me and how I will be able to sustain myself so that I can continue to fight the battle or to help people, how's that going to work? Then I've just literally wasted my life. Because at the end of the day, people are thinking about themselves. People will call me at 3 a.m. in the morning. I get my first ding this morning was at 1 a.m. So I've literally been up since 1 a.m. And this is not a whining thing. I want you guys to really think about this and your life. Because we're being told you have to be selfless. Selfless basically means that you are nothing. You have to become nothing. You cannot think about your own health. You cannot think about your own, mental wellness. You cannot think about your physical wellness. Part of being self-full or self-focused or self-aware, which people now want to deem as a bad thing, is like a car that has gasoline in it. When you drive that car, Moji Mobile, when I drive Moji Mobile, I get more mileage out of that thing because it is eco-friendly. So it doesn't run just on gas. It runs on whatever it runs on. I'm not a scientist. I should have brought my wife on the show. She would have explained it to you guys. But my car is eco-friendly. But even then, I still have to put some gas in it or else it's not going to go anywhere. Because if I drive 100, I think it goes about 100 and something miles per tank or something, whatever it does. But if the tank is at empty, the car is not going to move. The same thing goes for us, spiritually, mentally, and financially. So if you are one of those people that give and help people, I sit on this show every day and I try and pour my heart out and then we talk about things, we ask each other questions. But this particular one really bothered me because I watched that funeral yesterday and it wasn't about, and people are going to cut me for this. I watched that whole thing yesterday and it wasn't about the woman that had been selfless since she was 18. She's been giving her life to everybody, doing everything for everybody. And we kept piling, and I say we, because I'm one of them. We kept piling more and more and more on her. We kept piling more and more and more on her. I had a case of people, LGBTQ people in freaking Kenya that were moved from Uganda, a country that kills gay people, to Kenya, and they were cutting them up. I was so frantic that day. Who did I call? Reverend Vicky. Now I have Reverend Vicky in America who's got issues of her own. And I didn't ask. Are you okay? Is everything fine? I just called her crying. This is what's going on. This is what we need to do. How do we get them out of there? Because somebody called me. Again, not asking me, how are you doing? When we become self-full, then we're able to go out there and be the best version of ourselves. That's my opinion. But is being self-focused really a bad thing? Because there's a fine line between selfish and self-focused. There's a fine line between self-full and selfish. Selfish is somebody that doesn't really care about anybody else but themselves. I am saying maybe we need to coin the term self-full. Self-full is making sure your tank is full. Self-full is making sure that if you're one of those people that give and give and give, like none of us are this battery. I forget what the name of that battery thing is that keeps going and going and going and going. Eventually, you're going to drop dead. Eventually, you're going to die. Eventually, you're going to be tired. Eventually, you have a nervous breakdown because you're carrying so much. And because for those that are not empaths, even for empaths, people like me that feel people's pain, people like me that can look at you and recognize that there's pain inside you, right? When I absorb your pain and I already have my pain, how do I even balance that out if I don't take the time to rejuvenate? If I don't take the time to do things that gives me pleasure? If you don't take the time to do the things that brings you back to center? If it's meditation, if it's sitting down and reading a book, if it's painting, if it's just shutting everything down, like I'm about to do for the next few days until Wednesday again on social media, if it's just shutting everything down, we need to learn to become self-full so that we can give from a place of love. What I realize is that a lot of us are running around trying to help this person, help that person, do this with that person, but we're not doing it from a place of love. One of the things I remember the most about Reverend Vicky is that every time she spoke to me and I was angry because somebody just called me an abomination or somebody is doing this, and she's like, you can explain these things to them. You don't need, do it from a place of love. So I put my claws away and I started talking to people. Instead of fighting them on social media, I will call them so they can hear my voice on the other end. And I realized that that piece worked a lot better than sitting on social media and going back and forth. I mean, I speak my mind on social media, but I call them, I allow them to see, to hear how they have hurt me, how painful their words are to me for something that I'm not in control of. Now, how many times have we not had the courage to do just that? How many times have you been in maybe, let's say, a library, and you're somebody that went to the library, you just left your house, the comfort of your house, to go to the library. And you're in the library and you're trying to study for a big exam or something, and somebody next to you has their headphones on and they're doing this and they're dancing to the music. They're not talking because technically in the library you can't talk, right? But they're doing this and it's distracting you. And the reason you went to the library is so people don't distract you. But instead of a lot of us, and I've been there many times, instead of having the courage to get up and say, hey, Bobo, I'm sorry, but your bopping is distracting me, we don't say anything because we're trying not to be different. We're trying so hard not to rock the boat. We're trying so hard not to complain because we don't want people to think we're selfish. But what is wrong with being self-full? Stop being selfless. Selfless is what brings sadness, depression, anger. You're eroding your spirit, your soul, your being to be accepted by other people. A lot of you guys are in relationships where your ship ain't working, or you're dating a guy or a woman that you know this person is not right for you, but you guys have been together for 5 years and you don't want to disappoint your mother, you don't want to disappoint your father, you don't want to disappoint your cousin, you don't want to disappoint maybe your dad that already bought 10 cows. Forgetting that you are the one, after all the shenanigans is over, after all this parade and charade is over, you have to go home with this person. This person that behind closed doors is rude, mean, inconsiderate, absolutely selfish. But you're trying not to be what? Selfish. Self-full. There's a difference between selfish and self-full. So you go ahead and you go show up on that day and you say, I do, and then you go home. The guy that was already kind of tapping you on the head now starts to slap you around. But yet you don't leave because you don't want people to say bad things about you. See, at some point you need to put on your blinders. That's my opinion. Because I look around me and people always say the good ones always leave. The good ones always leave. So now my benchmark of good has to be somebody that's not self-full, that didn't take care of themselves, that didn't get enough sleep, that didn't look at their health, that didn't put their health first so that they can be the best version of themselves for many, many years to come. That's part of being self-full. Jesus Christ, when we take the Jesus Christ that we all love and serve, that a lot of us love and serve, because all of us don't believe in Jesus, but I do. I've been reading the Bible a lot. When I look in the Bible and I look at Jesus Christ could have been serving, feeding gazillions of people. He could have gone to gazillions of parties. He could have done so much. When he went to the land of the lepers, he only healed 2 people. There was droves and droves and droves of lepers. He healed 2, maybe sometimes 1. I mean, really? You remember in the Bible somewhere when Jesus Christ when the woman was rubbing his body with oil, because people always say Jesus was so selfless, right? Jesus Christ was not selfless. Go and read your book, because Jesus Christ lay there and he had this woman rub oil all over his body, and when his guys came around and said, "Hey, baby, you should be in the kitchen cooking something, whatever," he said, "No, leave her. When I'm gone, there will be lots of times for her to be able to go in the kitchen to cook. For now, let her do what she wants to do." Of course, Jesus was enjoying the oil being rubbed all over his body, so he took time for himself. But we expect people that claim to serve not to serve themselves, not to take time out. We applaud people that go to the battlefront after they've been stabbed and they've been knifed and they've been cut and shredded. We don't take care of them. We don't send them on vacations. We don't call them and say, "Hey, are you okay today?" We don't do that. Instead, we'll pile more ish on them because they have no boundaries. And I know what I'm saying probably doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me. And I'm asking you guys to look into your lives and see where you need to become self-full, because selflessness makes you into a doormat. Selflessness makes everything about other people. You know, I'm sitting there watching this show yesterday, and I call it a show. I posted it on my page and I took it off because it just didn't sit right with me. And how dare me even say something like that, because everybody mourns in their own way. But for me, a celebration of life should be about that person. That person. And after all is done and gone, I have stayed in this house because our son has asthma. I stopped going to the food pantry because I was afraid to bring coronavirus home to my family. So I became self-full. Because at 55, if I go out there and I die of coronavirus, everything that I'm trying to accomplish to save, to contribute to the world will stop. Sometimes we have to think about it on a larger scale. When we talk about self-fullness, self-focusing, self-awareness, we have to become more insightful and ask ourselves, because if God resides in me, shouldn't I take better care of this temple? Shouldn't I exercise so that I can live longer and continue to do God's work? Shouldn't I take the time to find out what my purpose is? And maybe I'm already living my purpose, really, because a lot of times we're already living our purpose, but because there's nobody applauding us in the back, because we don't have 10,000 views, we don't have 150,000 views like the Yashukras that are fighting each other on social media, we think we're not serving a purpose. We are all serving a purpose. But the whole point is, are we going to continue to be selfless? Are we going to continue to make ourselves less? Die early, just so we can be called a saint? Or are we going to continue to preserve ourselves so that we are able to sustain our purpose on earth? Because people say, "Oh, yeah, she died because Jesus Christ was ready for her. God called her home." Or, honey, my father, when he died, he shouldn't have died. He was only 60-something, for crying out loud. The man had diabetes. All the stuff was there. There was medication. Plus, I don't believe in medication. I don't believe in medication to control diabetes unless it's like over the top. But you can eat right. You can exercise. Instead of eating carbohydrates every day, eat more egusi and eat less carbohydrates. I'm a foodie, so I need to eat my carbs. If I don't eat my carbs, you'll think it's World War III. But when we start thinking about sustaining our walk on this planet, on this earth, we have to remember that, look, everybody is out here to do something, and we're all interconnected, but everybody is not my mission, is not my, everybody. I realized 2 years ago that everybody is not my assignment. Is everybody your assignment? Are you going to start to think about how to become self-full? A lot of people, I spoke to a woman yesterday that called me because she was very upset with her daughter, who she had co-signed for a student loan for. The woman is 70 years old, co-signed for a student loan for her daughter. The daughter graduated in September. They have 6 months grace or something like that. And the child decided she's going to travel the world for a year. Honey, the 70-something-year-old mother that's co-signed for this child now has to pay the bills, because nobody is going to pay the bills. 70-something-year-old mother is going to have to pay the bill because this child decides she's going to travel the world. See, when I woke up one morning and said, because my first child, we did everything for, I said everybody has to contribute to their education because it makes you value things more. All my friends are like, oh my God, how could you be that way? But people respect what they put in effort for. People respect education they kind of sort of help to pay for. People respect a house they help to build. When you turn yourself into a selfless person, you have discounted yourself and put yourself on the clearance rack. And of course, people want to respect your space, your relationship, your friendship, even your mission in the world. You notice how when you walk to the I lived in a village in Nigeria when I went to high school in Nigeria, and every morning we would get up and we'd go fetch water in a bucket, and we'll carry it on our head and walk about 2 or so miles back to the dormitories. I made sure I put aside water to boil so I can drink it. I made sure I put a little water aside for emergency. And then, I could literally bathe. Today, I spend maybe 5 seconds in the shower, even though we can afford, the water just runs here. But because psychologically, I have been programmed to carry buckets of water on my head. I conserve water. I don't just use it yafu. Now, when I was growing up, before I went to the village, because we had running water at home, I could take 2-hour showers. No, which one concerns me? Shebi, daddy will pay for the water. But when it came to the point where I had to invest in my water consumption, I started to take better care of the water. A lot of times we're helping people that don't need to be, we just need to guide them. We don't need to carry everybody on our back, on our heads. That's why it's important for a business to sustain. So for sustainability purposes, a business must have teams. You have to be able to delegate things. Somebody comes to me for help. Auntie Moji, I want to go to school. I send them links. I could fill out the forms for them. No, I send them the links for the school. Let them go do the research. They're investing into their next phase in life. When they invest themselves into the next phase in life, it makes them value wherever they go, wherever they become, whatever they become, they have invested in it. And it gives me the opportunity to take time to spend with my family because I'm not carrying everything around. What do you do to become self-full? That is the question. We can no longer walk around talking about selflessness because coronavirus has taught us that tomorrow is not guaranteed. Coronavirus has taught us. Look, my wife and I were on the phone on Friday with Reverend Vicky. My wife is a cardiologist trained in some of the best hospitals all over the world as one of her specialties. We sat on the phone with her talking about this and that, and the kids in Kenya that are being killed, the LGBTQ people, we need to get them out, blah, 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 blah. What do we do? How do we do? Blah, 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 blah. And the guilt. Because I heard her breathing funny, and my wife said to her, as we were getting ready to go to the phone, my wife said, wait, you're not breathing right. Something sounds off. You need to get to the hospital today. It sounds like it's in your lungs. And she said, oh, okay, no worries, whatever. And we let it go. And I'm sure she was preoccupied with a lot of things that people were bringing to her plate. I feel so bad and guilty. But for me, I always try and take a life lesson when something happens. That's where that self-fullness has started to come up. I've been on that journey for a while, but this thing just sinked it. Because we said, go to the hospital, I could have called back. You know me, I'm a pain in the bleep. I could have called back. I could have texted her back. I waited until Monday. And then in the church, when we went to film that thing, I said, she said, Moji, I want you to read something. And I said, okay. She went and printed it. And then before she came to me, she put on a pair of gloves. And I'm like, whoa, why did she do that? Does she think I have coronavirus? You see how we're thinking about stupid shit? I'm thinking she thought I had coronavirus because she went to pick up a pair of gloves to put on her right hand and handed me the paper. Go figure. Self-fullness. See, when you're so and God, I don't know what God is doing. I'm not going to claim I understand God. What I understand is manifestation. What I understand is calibration. What I understand is prayers and meditation. I can't tell you God is a man or God is a woman or why God does what he does, but I also know that God said he gave us freedom of choice. So my freedom of choice, I believe, from the movement. If I want to do everything with love, I have to do it it has to start with me. It has to start with me, valuing my space, valuing my safety space, valuing the things that refill my tank, valuing and doing the things that makes me feel whole. I never want to be selfless again in my life. I have done that too much. And a lot of you are probably thinking, what the hell is she saying? Oh my God, how dare her? How dare her? Thank you. You're going to, the disciples were suggesting that the oil would have been sold to feed the poor. Thank you. But bottom line is, Jesus said, let her use the oil on me. Thank you for correcting me though. I appreciate that. But the bottom line is that at the moment, see, Jesus Christ could have said, okay, go and sell the oil to feed the poor, right? Mr. Oladele Ojikere. But Jesus didn't say that. Jesus was enjoying himself being lavish with oil. He's like, no. There are many, after I'm gone, there are many days for her to go and sell the oil or whatever she's doing. But for right now, in this moment, I beg, let her continue rubbing the oil on my body. That's what Jesus Christ said. But we all think that we have to give everything we have to other people, our time, our love, our affection, and everything. We have to start to think about things that we do and say. How does my life impact other people? It has to stop with how is my life impacting me? How, if I drop dead today, are we able to continue the things that I'm doing? Am I able to make sure that I'm healthy enough to be here? Am I able to be mentally, physically, emotionally grounded? We can't be everything to everybody. If you are everything to everybody, one of the things I learned along my way is that you're not your authentic self. Because Jesus Christ was not everything to everybody. Jesus Christ said, when his disciples told him, oh, the woman is wasting the oil, like Mr. Ojikere just told us. The woman is wasting the oil. We could sell this oil and use the oil to feed the poor. Thank you, Mary Magdalene. Jesus Christ said, no, I beg you, me, I'm enjoying this oil. After I die, they can go and sell the oil then. If Jesus could do that, who are we? How arrogant are we? Thinking we could be everything to everybody. How arrogant are we? Thinking we don't deserve peace in our lives. How arrogant are we believing that we have to be selfless? God did not create us to be selfless. God said, I will fill your cup in front of your enemy self. You know, we're always hiding. I don't want people to know I drive a Corvette because they might do the winches. I don't want them to know I have a jewelry line because, I stopped my toe a few days ago. The cabinet is minding its own business. Dark. I didn't want to turn on the light and boga. I use the thing to instead of me turning on the light, I'm like feeling my boom, crushed my toes. Two tiny little toes. Right? Now, if I had turned on the light, I would have been able to see. If I had turned on my phone self, I would have been able to see. But I was trying hard not to wake my wife up. Boom! It's not my wife's fault. It's not the fault of the cabinet. Of course, I blamed it on the winches because that's what we do in Nigeria. We blame everything on the winches instead of our choices. Our choices. Being self-full is loving yourself. But there's a fine line between self-full, self-focused, and being selfish. Being selfish is me having jollof rice and I ate some, saved some for tomorrow, and then the rest I throw in the garbage instead of giving it to somebody. You know, there are days where people call me for help and I'm like, look, I have this to do. I have that. I run a business. I run businesses. And sometimes you have to juggle a little bit around and you call me for something. I can't give it to you today. And no, I don't have to explain myself. Now I just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. If spirit tells me to do it though, I will do it. But I'm no longer going to help people out of guilt or so they can clap for me, so that I can feel good about myself. I will no longer do that. The jewelry line and accessory line that I'm doing, my wife, I've been trying to do that for many, many years. My wife is the one that convinced me to stop dashing everybody everything and giving everything away. When will you start to think about your retirement? When will you start to self-actualize and do the things that gives you joy, she said. That's how Shuku Accessories came about. A lot of you are running for your 25, 30-year-old children. You're in your 50s, 60s, 70s. You're sitting in a place because you're worried about your children that are praying that you walk out of the relationship because it's such a jacked up relationship, and you're teaching them how to be in a relationship. When you are self-full, it'll spill out. When your cup runs over, it will spill out and affect other people. It will affect, either effect or affect. Yeah, one of the two. We have to start to think about us sometimes. See, it's like a pastor that gets up and starts traveling. Jesus Christ, when he walks and walks and walks and he gets tired, they said he went on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Baba wanted to chill, get away from everybody so he can get clarity. So he did what? He went into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. For clarity purposes. Yet, a lot of our pastors don't take vacations. A lot of our pastors think they have to do everything themselves instead of getting others. Look, this one needs that, da-da-da. A lot of us parents, we think we cannot empower children to be able to make decisions, but yet guiding them. We think we have to do everything for everybody. I'm 55 years old. I thought I would have retired by the time I was 50. I didn't retire at 50. I started over at 42 because I didn't have the courage to be authentic, to be who God created me as. I went to church for 15 years, wanted to be a pastor because I knew in my gut I was meant to speak. But I realized that being a pastor wasn't for me. The kind of speaking that I was meant to do was to transform lives, to get people to think, because I don't have all the answers. If I can just get you to think for 1 second, I've done my job. If you and I start to think about us, then we'll be able to come to ideas and solutions that can help other people. Because self-love, when you're able to say, I've read it in so many books, if you cannot love yourself, you can't love others. So if you want to take care of other people, take care of you too. If you want to love other people, love you. It's hard for people like me and a lot of you guys out there that are outcasts, that have been shunned by family, that have been shunned by lots and lots of friends, that don't even have family. My dad's dead. My mom, I don't really know. So it's like I have 26 brothers and sisters, but they not really mine. So a lot of us are looking for stuff on the outside. And this, where I am today, has been a 30-year journey. And everything comes with a price. Problem is that we're not willing to pay the price that it takes to become the best version of ourselves. When you watch a caterpillar grow into a butterfly, metamorphosize into a butterfly, you can feel the pain it's going through because everything is transforming like the transformer. Pa, 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 pa. And even when the wings come in, for it to get those amazing colors, I heard blood must rush through it. And it's a very painful process. But when it gets there, it's beautiful. You can't cage a butterfly. Butterfly dies. You cannot cage a butterfly. It has to be free flying out there. So why then do we do that to ourselves? Self-care is an act of worship. Yes, indeed. Why then do we do that to ourselves? Ruthie says, thank you for vulnerably sharing your story. I'm going through a mass transformation right now and everything you're saying resonates. Time to start over at 32. It's never too late to start over. I started over way late in my life. I started demanding respect way late in my life. I started to walk that path that I should have been walking if I had the opportunity. It wasn't until I had the courage to look at myself clearly and start living in truth. Because it's so easy to live a lie. Oh my God. Problem with living a lie is that now you have to remember the first lie, the second lie, the lie you told to cover the lie, that you told to cover the lie, and the other lie. It just got to that point in my life where I just said, you know what? And God spoke to me and said, you need to come out. And I'm like, what? They'll kill me. 2 weeks ago, I heard him tell me to do something and I posted on social media and I'm like, oh my God. I can't do that. They're going to slaughter me. And God said, every time you've listened to me, I have walked with you. Every way, even when you didn't listen to me, I was always there. If you paid attention, you'll see me at every turn. For those of you guys that don't believe in God, I'm sure you believe in a higher power or the universe or calibration. And the universe is always there, speaking to us. See that voice that tells you, go left, don't go right, when you normally go right every day? And then you find out there's an accident there? That's God. That's the universe speaking to you. I don't know what you call your God. But when you listen to spirit, you can never go wrong. When you stop looking outside for validation, when you stop feeding your ego, we all need ego, by the way. And I'm not going to be one of those people that tells you, oh, get rid of all ego. No, you need a healthy amount of ego. A healthy amount of ego is fantastic. Allow your ego to overtake you. That's my opinion. It doesn't mean it's right. If you don't believe so, please, by all means, bring it. Let's talk about it. Because when you stop looking for validation and applause, that's when you realize that you are becoming your authentic self. I used to think the numbers of people that followed me and the numbers of people that watched my shows mattered. And then I got a call one day from somebody that had been watching my show for a long, long time. And they never spoke. And I realized that the messages are not for everybody. Every message is not for everybody. Every conversation with Moji is not for everybody. The people that are meant to receive it will get it. And the people that are not meant to receive it won't. I am sitting here asking you guys out there, whoever, all 6 of you that can hear me, to ask yourself, am I being self-full, selfish, or self-focused? See, the society has made being self-focused a really bad thing. You know, I learned that many years ago when I heard Oprah once say that she had come from a very poor place and then she became rich and she felt guilty for being rich because people were coming to her and asking her for this and asking her for that and asking her. But then she called up Maya Angelou and Maya Angelou says, honey, you better take care of you. And you don't have to help everybody. You cannot help everybody. You can't be everything to everybody and yet still be authentic. That was 10 years ago. But even then, it took a long time to turn the curve. It took a long time for me to turn the bend. I don't have a lot of the answers. So my question to you today, is there anything wrong with being self-full? Because selfless has been deemed the thing to be. Selflessness means you don't love you. You don't appreciate you. You don't take care of you. You give everything to everybody because God will provide. My thing is, I honestly believe that God that provided me with a job where I got a paycheck did not tell me to go and give a pastor my first whole paycheck of the month. How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay for my car note? How am I going to pay my insurance? If God gave me money for my rent and I turn around and give it to, let's say, Ruthie for her mortgage, I'm working out of deficient. There's one thing for me to have and give some. There's something for me to have and save some for me and give some of it. But we are expected to give our all to become selfless, to become less. If I am less and I'm elevating you, I'll resent you. I will be miserable. I'll be angry. I'll become a bee on wheels because I am less. Less, selfless. We've been told being selfless is the way to be. Is that really true? That's my question. I've been asking the same question for almost an hour. That is my question. I think it's time we start to consider the word self-full. Because when you're self-full, you can give from a place of abundance. You can give, and I don't mean you have to be rich to give. I'm saying, see, when I have eaten and I'm not hungry, I'm not thinking of depriving anybody of what they have. I'm not thinking of being selfish. Some people are selfish because they want what belongs to somebody else and they will club you over the head for it. But there's nothing wrong with you having equity, sweat equity in your life and enjoying the fruit of your labor and understanding that you deserve it. See, when you're happy in a relationship, people they're jealous, they're upset. When you're happy and you have a good job because you've worked for it, you've laid the foundation, people think that you have to be less for them to feel better about themselves. This is why it's important for all of us to be self-full. Take care of yourself. This I'm going to leave you guys with. Self-care is an act of worship. Reverend Vicky said that. Are we caring for ourselves? Or are we becoming selfless so we can be applauded, so we can be immortalized, so we can be worshipped, so we can be loved because we're not getting love from home? Are you working 24 hours in your office at your job because you have a miserable life at home? Are you living with a person that doesn't see your value, that doesn't see you in the things that you choose to put around you? Are you with a person that doesn't understand why you are passionate about what you're passionate about and you stay there for whatever reason? Self-care is an act of worship. So if you're in a bad relationship, life is short. If you've gone for therapy, if you know in your heart that it's not going to work, I ask you to be self-full. Love yourself. And stop being everybody's sacrificial lamb. Stop being selfless. Stop making yourself less to put a roof over some people, to make sure your children have a mother and a father that don't get along in the house, by the way. So you're damaging those children more. Children need parents that love them, that show them what value they should have in themselves. Because when you stay in an abusive, horrible relationship, you're pretty much teaching your children that it's okay. And this is what love looks like. Self-care is an act of worship. Are you with friends that belittle you? Are you with friends that compete with you all the time? Are you with friends that come into your home and then ask you, oh, by the way, what do you really do? Really? I'm a realtor. I flip homes for a living. I do construction. What do you mean, what do I really do? What are you trying to say? Is it because I'm Nigerian and you're a Black American? I cut them off. So now the whole gang has walked away, and that's okay. Be self-full. Because what you realize is that when you accept garbage from people, they'll continue to dump on you. Are you hanging around with people that don't nurture you, but you're afraid of being called a snob? I started to use that word. If you think I'm an elitist, so be it, because I have a moral compass that's not broken, that I fixed, by the way. and I have integrity. So I'm being called the moral police. If you're going to call me the moral police because I believe that we should treat each other with respect and dignity and we should all take care of each other, starting with self, shuku to you. You have to have the courage to walk in your truth. It's your choice to be selfful or to be selfless. I think we all need to start to look at the word selfful and no longer selfless. There's no reason why people have to be less for us to feel good. There's no reason why one person has to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I repeat again, if everybody likes you, it means that you're not your authentic self. And to be able to fulfill your purpose, you have to take care of yourself, health-wise, mentally, physically, and financially. I hope this is going to get you thinking. This is Moji Solo Wilson. I thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you on Wednesday when I'm bringing on an author from Nigeria who has written about 6-7 books. We have to start to do things that make people think and not things that just collect numbers. This is Moji Solo Wilson. The show is Authentic Conversations with Moji. And I will see you guys Wednesday. Namaste.